Welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Friday, the 28th of July. Good to have you aboard. We are a Blue Wire podcast presented, as always, by Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys. 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. If you've been involved in any kind of an accident, you're dealing with a personal injury, I send you to where you're going to be treated like family and get you the money that you deserve. Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys, 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. Good to have you with us as we made it to Friday. We got through the end of the week, and now officially, look, we're less than a week away from NFL football. Thursday night next week, the 3rd, you got the Hall of Fame game. We got preseason football in 6 days. You have Dolphins preseason football in 2 weeks as the entire league does week 1 NFL preseason. So we're here, man. And what comes along with NFL preseason getting started are major injuries. And that was the big story yesterday across the NFL. And unfortunately, it landed one of the big stories, maybe the biggest, and I say maybe the biggest because we're talking about not the biggest player necessarily, but potential time missed. The biggest story lands right here in Miami Gardens and Jaylen Ramsey. So, Jaylen Ramsey, the news comes down very shortly after I wrapped up yesterday's show. Matter of fact, excuse me, it was one of those deals where I got done with the show. My team is editing the show, putting all the clips together, putting everything together, uploading it to Blue Wire. My whole team is working super hard to get all of this done. And like right when it's being uploaded, I see the Jaylen Ramsey news, and I thought to myself for a second, man, like should I go back on? Should I add something to the show? It's like, all right, I was glad I didn't, because now we're able to gather some more information as far as timelines and that kind of stuff. And I'll just address it on Friday. So that's what we're doing today. But the Jaylen Ramsey news comes down very shortly after the entire team here at ZASLOW Show 2.0. All of them, they work right over there. You know, I'm here in the ZASLOW Mansion studio, which we all know is the master bedroom where all the magic happens. And right over there, I got my whole team. They're right over there. They're working on this show. But anyway, that's the big story from today. So we're going to, let me get back to that in a second, because that is, yeah, it's shitty. Like, and it's the worst part about football, right? It's the part about football that I hate. ZASLOW, of course, the part about football you hate is when your players get hurt. Well, yeah, like, yes, I'm stating the obvious. But the point that I'm making here is, it really seems the whole, like, when we get to the end of the NFL season, it comes down to the team that was able to stay healthy. It comes down to the team that was able to get lucky and avoid the major injuries. And it's the one sport, and yes, of course there are major injuries in basketball. Of course, a little less so in baseball, you know. Of course, there could be major injuries in hockey, though those guys are on a different planet. They play through it all. But the point is, football is really the one sport where every single play, there could be a major injury and you're just holding your breath every single time. Your entire season can change. Your entire season can be ruined in one play. It's the worst part about football. To me, it's the worst part about being a football fan. And sometimes it happens in training camp, preseason, and then I'm not one of those, I don't subscribe to the whole, you shouldn't play your guys in the preseason because what if they get hurt? Because as we saw yesterday, this kind of stuff happens. I mean, it happens in training camp. It happens in practice. If the guy's going to get hurt, you can't avoid it. You can't have these guys in bubble wrap. You know, it was, and I always go back to this. You go back to, what was it, Jake Long, remember, Dolphins' former #1 overall pick. He was a bust. But you go back, and yes, Jake Long was a bust. He was a good player for the Dolphins, but if you voluntarily choose not to give the #1 overall pick a second contract, he's a bust. Jake Long was a bust. But Jake Long was good when he was here, and it was like his second or third year, And it was Tony Sperano's, they came at the same time. So Sperano's like second or third year. And Sperano played him in the fourth and final preseason game because Dolphins were not having a good preseason. And he wanted the starters to still get some run, particularly the offensive line. Okay, fine. And Jake Long got hurt in that game. Now, it was not serious at all. I don't even think he missed any time. But he got hurt, and Sperano was getting crushed. I didn't crush him. These guys can... Now, do I think that your starter should play in the final preseason game? No. What's the point? But these guys can get hurt at any time, in any game, in any practice. And as we saw yesterday with Jaylen Ramsey. So, and I think maybe he bumped knees. I think they got tangled up. So Jaylen Ramsey yesterday, I guess there was some kind of contact while he was guarding Tyreek Hill. And he comes up lame. And initially, the news is terrible because you get the word Jaylen Ramsey has been carted off the field. And that's a disaster. And then the news starts to get a little bit less bad, or maybe we're just trying to put a positive spin on it, right? Maybe we're trying to find some positive nugget somewhere here, which lets us believe that he's not going to be out for the year, that it's not, a torn ACL, which it is not. The ACL is completely intact. But we're trying to get, we're trying to read into it where, all right, it was the end of practice. He didn't get on a card for another 10 minutes. If he is limping around on his own, why wouldn't you get the card to take him into the building? Why make him limp 100 yards to go into the building? So he might be okay, which that logic makes sense. But now we find out throughout the day, he is having surgeries and surgery today. I hope so. You want to get it over with as soon as possible. He is having surgery. It is on his meniscus. But here's where we stand, right? So the initial word, we're getting this many weeks, so this many weeks, this many weeks, this many weeks. Here's apparently where we're at. And I guess this is going to be decided when the doctor looks at it, or maybe it's decided beforehand as to what Jaylen Ramsey wants to do. Although Jaylen Ramsey, all right, so Jaylen Ramsey tweeted out yesterday. I'm not calling it an X video, an X rated. I don't know what it is. It's Twitter and it's a tweet, all right? Jaylen Ramsey puts out a tweet yesterday. Minor setback. I'm in God's hands. I know he's got a plan, all that stuff. And, we're going to take our time and be back stronger than ever. Okay, great. But that right there makes you believe, like the things that he said in his tweet, taking our time, back better than ever, being smart, health, all that stuff. That makes you believe he's not taking the short term out of this. That makes you believe he's going to go with, let's make sure I'm super healthy. Let's make sure we do this right. He may miss a ton of time. Because here are the options. He can it's the meniscus, all right? So he can either go with, from what I understand, he can either go with where they're going to do like a small repair. I forget the actual wording. And that would have him out about 6 to 8 weeks. Well, the start of the Dolphins season is in 6 weeks. So 6 to 8 weeks, maybe he misses the start of the season. That would be nice. I think as Dolphin fans, you're hoping that's the route he goes. The other route is a full meniscus repair, which could have him out months, potentially into December, which you're pretty much missing the season if that's the case. It's one major extreme against the other. My guess is he's going with the full repair. Based on the way he said it, he didn't tweet out, like he didn't make it seem like this is so horrible, he's so upset, I got to get back on the field as soon as possible. He made it sound like this is not a big deal. I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to come back. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to come back stronger than ever. It's all good. And on top of it, yes, he wants to, obviously he wants to win big. But it's not like he owes this Dolphins organization something. It's not like he's been here for years. And it's like, man, I got to do it for my teammates. I got to do it for the city. I got to do it for the fans. Right now, he's never played for the Dolphins. He owes it to himself and his family to make sure he gets right. I don't think he's taking the quick way out here. I think this is going to be a full meniscus repair, which could have him out for the entire season. So yesterday, until I hear otherwise, terrible day. Yes, it's not the ACL. It doesn't mean if he's out into December that we should feel good just because it wasn't the ACL. So yesterday was a disaster. Terrible news. Like I said, not the absolute worst news you could have gotten, but he just got here. Like, I don't feel like there's this urgency for him to get back on the field as soon as possible. I feel like he's probably going to play the long game here. And that's fine. That's his prerogative. That's probably the smart choice. But as fans, what do we care about the smart choice? I want him to have the quick fix. I want him to have the very quick repair and be back at the start of the season. Now, as far as the actual cornerback position is concerned, and we talked about this earlier in the week, Dolphins are deep at cornerback. They are deep. So, if Xavier Howard has a ton to prove, which it certainly seems like he does. I told you, I gave out yesterday, you can go back and listen to past episodes of ZASLOW Show 2.0. Wherever you listen to your podcast, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your mother I say hello. Tell everybody how you can listen to ZASLOW Show 2.0. I still get people, by the way, who are like, ZASLOW, I just found your show. Oh my God, I'm so happy. I'm telling you, most of the ZASLOW Show fans over all these years still do not know where we are. Tell everybody. So, what was I saying? Where was I? I lost my train of thought. All right. As for the cornerback position, excuse me, very embarrassing. The Dolphins are very deep at cornerback. And like I told you yesterday, I did my Dolphins top 5 of the week, and this week's top 5 was players with something to prove. Number 1, Xavier Howard. If Xavier Howard has this major chip on his shoulder, his agent, David Cantor, told us earlier in the week that he does, because he's coming off a down year, a disappointing year. If Xavier Howard is going to be Xavier Howard, and last year was not him starting to go downhill. Last year was him playing through injuries. And David Cantor told us that he begged Xavier Howard not to play last year, not to play through these injuries. But Xavier Howard wanted to play because he owes it to the team. He wants to win. He's a great teammate, great team player. If that's true, you're hoping that's the case. Because if that is the case, then Xavier Howard has a good chance to get back to being a legit number 1 cornerback. And if that's the case, the Jaylen Ramsey injury will hurt a lot less. So the Dolphins do happen to be very deep at that position. If Xavier Howard gets back to being your number 1 guy, you got Nick Needham who's returning. I know he's a nickel corner. You got Nick Needham who's returning. We liked Cater Coe last year as a rookie. Well, all right, second year now. And they drafted that, his name's Cam Smith, right? That they drafted 2nd round pick, I believe it was. I understand he's a rookie. But still, this is a team that is deep at that position. We're all hoping Jaylen Ramsey's back immediately. Now, it's weird where it's like you can't replace a Jaylen Ramsey. Well, I mean, technically, Jaylen Ramsey's never played for the Dolphins. So it's not really replacing Jaylen Ramsey. We're hoping to add Jaylen Ramsey. But the whole key now, while we're waiting for Jaylen Ramsey to return, the whole key now is Xavier Howard getting back to form. That's the major talking point right now. Until Ramsey gets back, Xavier Howard is now the focus again of this secondary. And if he gets back to being a number 1 guy, we will not miss. He's never played for us, but we won't miss Jaylen Ramsey. Then it'll be like, all right, I can't wait for Jaylen Ramsey to join this defense. If Xavier Howard's closer to the guy he was last year, that's a disaster then, with Ramsey being out. If Xavier Howard gets back to being Xavier Howard, we're not going to miss Ramsey. We're going to be excited for when he finally joins the team. There's a big difference. Big difference. So anyway, like I said, like we started off the show, injuries, the worst part of the National Football League. It's the worst part of being a huge football fan. It's the worst part of, man, the only way my team can win is if they don't have injuries. But you know they're coming. It's the worst part of being a football fan. I mean, you could say it about all sports, essentially. So, you had huge news out of Cincinnati as well. We'll get to that. Joe Burrow. And there was one other, was it Garrett Wilson in New York? Was that the other one yesterday? Anyway, The biggest one is Ramsey, because it seems like that's the longest timetable as far as a potential return there goes. All right, before we continue on, we got a lot going on here today. Guys, it's Friday. You know that means we got big game. Not a big game. Hey, there's a lot. Summer movies, all right? Huge weekend last weekend. Oppenheimer, Barbie, Barbenheimer. You know I saw Oppenheimer last week. I haven't been able to stop thinking about Oppenheimer this whole week. I can't wait to see it again. I'm not going to theater to see it again, but I'll watch it again when it's streaming. That movie's awesome. I can't wait to see it again. I can't stop thinking. I've been reading about it all throughout the week. Was there anything that was most accurate? Did this really happen? That kind of stuff. We got big movie. Not a big movie. You know how we do. Guys, here's also what we do. If we see that we have a leak in our home, we call Water Cleanup of Florida immediately. I don't need any problems with my home. You think I need a leak in my life? If you've noticed you have a water leak, maybe you don't know where it's coming from, call or text Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-900-8635. My guys, the Greensteins, Water Cleanup of Florida, they have over 60 years of combined experience. Their team is prepared to handle all types of leak detection issues, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. After the leak is located and repaired, Water Cleanup of Florida cleans, dries, and fully restores all the damaged areas. You don't need to bring in other contractors. Water Cleanup of Florida handles the entire project, start to finish. They serve the entire Tri-County area, Miami-Dade, Broward County, Palm Beach counties. Call or text Water Cleanup of Florida right when you notice there could be an issue. 954-900-8635. Go to WCUFL.com. Check out more than 80 5-star reviews on Google. Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-900-8635. Water Cleanup of Florida, we clean up your schmutz. Also, it's the weekend. Maybe you're going to kick back. I don't know about this afternoon. The weather's kind of shitty right now, but maybe you're going to kick back like the ZASLOWs. We're going to sit there out by the pool, and I got a Johnny Cuba in my hand. That's right. How about that? I told you guys, hey, you go out this weekend, your local Sedano's, Presidente, you go to Fresco y Mas, Winn-Dixie. My man Jason, he sent me a picture yesterday on Instagram trying Johnny Cuba for the very first time. That's right. Jason wrote here, had my first Johnny Cuba. Thank you, ZASLOW, for introducing me on the ZASLOW Show 2.0. It was just as good and refreshing as advertised. And of course, I'm an influencer on Instagram, so I put Jason's posts in my stories of him trying Johnny Cuba for the first time. And now, he's famous too. I love when you send me the pictures of you guys trying Johnny Cuba for the very first time. My man Juan from Johnny Cuba, he loves that as well. So go pick up a 6-pack this weekend of Johnny Cuba, official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0. I'll post the picture on my Instagram. We're best friends for life. Johnny Cuba, remember, always drink responsibly. And of course, don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. All right. So before we move on here, I've been getting some messages because you know my stance. You know my stance on this. Very well documented. We had recently, I don't know that he was essentially a whistleblower. He was a former worker inside the government or what have you. I forget what his role was, testifying in front of Congress a couple days ago that the United States government is in possession of alien aircrafts and recovered live alien life form. Maybe they weren't live, but recovered alien life forms from said aircrafts. Holy shit. Like, you actually have someone testifying in front of Congress that there are aliens, and we have the evidence. We have aircrafts. We have the actual alien life form, the physical bodies of these alien life forms. That's scary as shit to me. But here's the thing. Can we ask ourselves a question real quick? And you know my stance on this. I got to see it to believe it. I know most of you out there is like, ZASLOW are definitely alien life forms. You think they're the only ones who exist in the universe? Show me. I'm a man of science, all right? Show me. Prove it. Give me evidence. Oh, ZASLOW, the guy's telling you his evidence. Here's the thing, though. And I'm asking this very seriously. Here's the thing. if we're confirming that aliens exist, if this is legit, and I know it's legit as in it actually happened, this guy testified in front of Congress, I understand that. But if this is actually true, there are aliens. We have proven it. We have the evidence. We recovered not just the ships, but the life forms. If that's a real thing, I got ESPN Sports Center on my television right now. How the hell is aliens exist not being broadcast on every television channel right now? How do I not... Yes, even ESPN. If aliens exist, if there are aliens, that should be on every channel right now. If I put on the news, if I switch the channel to the news right now, whatever news station, they should be talking about aliens here in the United States. How is alien life form existing and we have the evidence, not the story on every channel? Not just CNN, not just Fox News, not just MSNBC, every channel. ESPN, ESPNU, ESPN2, Lifetime, Hallmark Channel, HBO, Cinemax. How is every channel not aliens exist? Wouldn't that be something that everyone should be talking about right now? Shouldn't that be the number? Who the hell cares about Colorado voting to leave the Pac-12 if we have alien life forms in our possession? How is that not the story on every channel on my television? Could somebody explain that to me? So that's my main problem. I understand Homeboy testified in front of Congress. How are we not talking about that all the time since that moment? So you can color me a little bit skeptical. A little bit skeptical. With that said, it's the weekend. And I know you guys, you're saying to yourself, Zaslow, enough about aliens. There's no such thing as aliens. What I do need to know is it a big game or is it not a big game? Big game or not a big game, always brought to us here on Fridays by the only insurance agency I get my homeowner's insurance from. Obviously, I'm talking about Brunt Insurance. Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance, they specialize in making sure you're getting the most comprehensive coverage at the most affordable rate out there. When it comes to your homeowner's insurance, the market's confusing. You can't just go onto Google and put homeowner's insurance. Click, buy. No, you got to get someone on the phone at Brunt Insurance, 954-589-2204. You could also go to bruntinsurance.com. And it doesn't matter where in Florida you're calling from, because from Pensacola all the way down to the Keys, Brunt Insurance has you covered, delivering comprehensive insurance tailored exactly to your needs. They have offices all throughout the state of Florida. Matter of fact, they were recently rated top 5 insurance agency in the country, #1 in Florida. So wherever you're calling from, Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance, they're going to get you the most affordable care and the best coverage. Hey, maybe you already have homeowners insurance and you're happy with that. Brunt Insurance also gives out auto insurance, motorcycle, boat. If you call 954-589-2204, you made the right call. Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance, they have the expertise and the experience to find exactly the right coverage for you. And if you don't own your home, renter's insurance, condo insurance. What about if you have a motorhome, if you have a trailer? They got you covered for everything. Let's make sure you're not laying awake at night, you can't sleep because you're wondering what's going to happen if something happens to your home. Bruntinsurance.com, 954-589-2204. Let's get to big game or not a big game. So, an abridged version here this week of big game, not a big game. Here's what we got. Let's start out with tonight. The Marlins were off yesterday. The Marlins split the short little two-game midweek series against the Tampa Bay Rays. So the Marlins are coming off that complete game, Sandy Alcantara, on Wednesday afternoon. Tonight, they host the Detroit Tigers. Now, why is this interesting? Tigers at Marlins. The Marlins 55-48. They're still on the outside looking into the wild card. They're a half game back. The Tigers, look, the Tigers stink. They're 46-57. They've lost 3 in a row. But here's the thing. This is the only time this year, obviously, because it's interleague play, and it's the last time ever this weekend that the Marlin fan is going to get to see Miguel Cabrera, the future Hall of Famer, all-time great Florida Marlin, in person. Again, he's retiring after this season. You got 3 opportunities this weekend to catch one of the all-time greats and maybe the greatest Marlin. I mean, really, maybe the greatest Marlin. Probably the greatest Marlin hitter, if you want to just narrow it down to that, ever. And he is back in town this weekend, Lone Depot Park. So go out there, support the 2003 champion. 19 years old. He's amazing. Opposite field off Roger Clemens. Take that shit. Miguel Cabrera in town this weekend. Tigers at Marlins. That's a big game. All right. Got 2 more for you here. Very short version this week, I told you. All right. Tonight, 8 p.m., Fox. WWE SmackDown. Now, the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, last week, they set up Tribal Combat for SummerSlam. I would imagine they're going to go over the rules tonight. Tonight, what is Tribal Combat going to be between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso? SummerSlam is just 8 days away. SummerSlam is next weekend. So that's going to be set up tonight as we continue the road to SummerSlam, which is going to be a massive event. Are there going to be more matches for SummerSlam announced tonight? My guess is yes. WWE SmackDown tonight. That's a big game. And finally, everybody calm down. Finally, tomorrow, 8 p.m., TNT, AEW Collision. Collision's been a great show. That's AEW's 3rd show of the week. Collision tomorrow night. You have the Tag Team Championship being defended by FTR, Cash Wheeler, Dax Harwood, all-time great tag team, and they're defending against the Blind Tag Team Eliminator Tournament winners, Adam Cole, and the AEW World Champion, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. MJF, top Jew, is to... Do Cole and MJF win the Tag Team Championships tonight, or do we begin to see the disintegration? Is MJF finally going to turn on Adam Cole? Maybe my pal Joey, we do our podcast, we'll have another episode this weekend on Sunday. It's still real to me. Maybe he's right where it's going to be Cole who turns on MJF. I feel like that's going to happen this week. They got to set up the main event for All In at Wembley Stadium, which I think we all know is going to be MJF and Cole. So tomorrow night, AEW Collision, that's a big game. And that right there is another edition, a big game or not a big game, brought to us by Brunt Insurance. Get your homeowner's insurance, bruntinsurance.com. All right. Short version this week. Now, here's what else we got. I know you want to know what the big movies are. We got good stuff. Everybody calm down, all right? So, we did a little on Jaylen Ramsey. That's the big news of the day, obviously. We gave you the big games. Okay, that's a big deal, obviously. I also, where's the alien coverage? That's my main sticking point today. Like, you feel me on that one? Wouldn't that be the biggest news there is? Why would SportsCenter be... I'm watching Amber Wilson and Harry Douglas hosting ESPN Radio this morning. I'm watching my television. I mean, everybody knows how great Amber is, but they're talking about the Tennessee Titans. If there are aliens, why are we talking about the Tennessee Titans if there are aliens? You feel me? You understand what I'm saying there? All right, anyway. All right, so now I got something to get fired up about. So, I don't know why this is happening, but it is, and it doesn't seem to be going away. And the thing that I'm talking about here, why is it happening? The thing that I'm talking about here is dudes thinking they're better than Dwyane Wade. Yeah, that's right. Dudes thinking they're better than Dwyane Wade. Earlier in the week, it was Paul Pierce who couldn't hold Dwyane Wade's jock. I don't know if there's ever... And look, I don't even think Paul Pierce is a Hall of Famer. I mean, he is because he's in, right? Did he get inducted yet? I think he did. I think he is. I mean, I don't know if there's any more of an insecure Hall of Famer than Paul Pierce, who, again, I don't believe is a Hall of Famer, but I'm wrong because he's in. Earlier in the week, Paul Pierce couldn't hold Dwyane Wade's jock, and he decided to take shots. Now, it's Jeff Teague. Now, Jeff Teague is not saying that he's better than Dwyane Wade. Jeff Teague is not saying that Paul Pierce is better than Dwyane Wade. No, Jeff Teague now is on some podcast, and I'm not going to play the clip here because there's language there. I think there was an N-word here or there. I can't play that. And Jeff Teague now is saying James Harden is better, was better, or is better than Dwyane Wade. James, like, I thought we'd been through this before. Like, aren't we watching, not even just this year, where Harden, was awful in the playoffs. I mean, he had two big games. He did. He had two big games in that series against Boston, but when it means the most, Game 6, Game 7, he was his usual horrible playoff performer. But the year before, when the Heat kicked the shit out of the Sixers in 5 games, Harden, total no-show, including that Game 5 elimination game. And that's his move. He is a terrible postseason player. He's an even worse elimination game postseason player. But now it's Jeff Teague who is coming up and trying to list guys, apparently, who are better than Dwyane Wade, and the one he's taking is James Harden. James Harden, like he said, he goes, James Harden's better than Dwyane Wade. I'm taking James Harden over Dwyane Wade, but I'm the one who's out of pocket. Yeah, out of pocket, Jeff Teague. So, let's dive into this, right? Jeff Teague, or anyone for that matter, saying James Harden is better than Dwyane Wade is a moron. I mean, moron sandwich for you. That's right. I'm bringing back moron sandwiches, apparently. Moron sandwich for you. Anyone who believes James Harden is better than Dwyane Wade, you don't know basketball. There's no other way to put it. And I don't know what it is. Like, it's not even just about James Harden's better than Dwyane Wade, but why do dudes feel like they could just keep using Dwyane Wade as the guy they're going to prop up other guys against? And you know what? Just like with Paul Pierce, Dwyane Wade's not going to respond. And I hope he doesn't respond. He's not going to respond because Dwyane Wade doesn't punch down. Dwyane Wade has no reason to ever respond to Paul Pierce. And he's got no reason to ever respond to anything James Harden related. Because anyone who knows anything about basketball knows that just like Paul Pierce, James Harden can't hold Dwyane Wade's jock. Dwyane Wade won Finals MVP his 3rd year in the league. 3rd year. Finals MVP. And I don't want to hear about, he had Shaq, because you know that's where everyone goes. Shaq averaged 12 points per game in the finals. 12. And I love Shaq. I love Shaq. Shaq averaged 12 points per game in the finals. Wade single-handedly won those 4 consecutive games against the Mavericks, his 3rd year in the league in 2006. Dwyane Wade won Finals MVP his 3rd year in the league. As a leading man, Harden has never won jack shit. James Harden, I mean, can we count? You want to talk about all the guys that Wade played with? Okay. Can we count the future Hall of Famers that James Harden has played with? Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, Dwight Howard, Joel Embiid. I mean, when does the list stop? And the one time that Harden was in the finals, he was horrendous. He was awful. He was horrible. And he lost to Wade's team in those finals. His only finals appearance. It'll likely be the only time he ever appears in the finals for his career. And he was horrendous. It was a sign of things to come. He's a terrible big-time player. There's nothing more sure than the sure thing of James Harden's team in a big-time playoff game and him coming up small. Everyone knows that. Not to mention, and here's a major sticking point, which, yeah, Jeff Teague, you out of pocket. Here's a major sticking point. Harden is horrendous on the defensive end. Where Wade was an all-NBA defensive player. 3-time all-NBA defensive player. Go find Harden's all-NBA defense awards. I'll be waiting forever. I'll never stop waiting. And look, we've done this before, right? I know it sounds cliche, but defense is literally half the game. So, for half the game, James Harden is terrible. For that half of the game, Wade is one of the all-time great two-way guards. There's never been a better shot-blocking guard in the history of the league, let alone one that's 6'4" like Wade. So, for half the game, Harden is awful. How can he possibly be compared to Dwyane Wade? And here's another one. Here's another one. You want to talk about all-time great guards, all-time great two guards? I got news for you. Dwyane, like we all know, top two greatest guards in the history of the NBA. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, right? Right? I mean, you want to throw Jerry West? Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. Two greatest guards of all time. Two guards. Here's something for you. Dwyane Wade is much closer to Kobe Bryant than James Harden is to Dwyane Wade. Much closer. You know, it's like, I love that story where Brian Scalabrine, where he told that story on my show before, where he played a guy in a gym one-on-one, like, dude's like, you can't play, whatever. And, you know, like a really good high school player. And just kicked the shit out of this kid. Like, kid didn't even score. And Scal, it's a great line, where Scal told the kid afterward, I'm a lot closer to LeBron James than you are to me. It's a great line, and obviously true. And it's the same thing here. Dwyane Wade is much closer to Kobe Bryant than James Harden is to Dwyane Wade. Much closer. And look, here's the thing. We're not done here. I told you, I'm just getting started. Let's dive into it. Forget opinions here. Let's use some facts. Let's use some numbers. Let's go over some stats here. All right, this is where it begins to get really interesting, right? Because I can't make these up. Dwyane Wade in the playoffs as a playoff performer, his entire career. So this includes Dwyane Wade's last time in the playoffs, which was his second to last year in the league, where he was a bench player, where he was a sixth man. Still really good. Remember he had that series against Charlotte, purple shirt guy. Anyway, Dwyane Wade's career in the playoffs, which spans 32 playoff series. Dwyane Wade's career in the playoffs, 22.3 points, 5.2 rebounds, 4.9 assists. Okay. Harden's career in the playoffs, which, you know, his career's still going on, and this spans 29 playoff series. So very close, 32, 29, comparable. Not that that really matters. Harden in the playoffs, 22.7 points, 5.5 rebounds, 6.3 assists. So the points are virtually the same. The rebounds are virtually the same. Harden averages an assist and a half more than Wade. Not surprising. He's got the ball in his hands a lot more. So the counting stats are very comparable. Here's where it begins to get interesting, right? Percentages. Dwyane Wade in the playoffs, 474. Harden, 424. Wade, much better shooter in the playoffs. Wade, from 3 in the playoffs. We know Wade's not a three-point shooter. Wade from 3 in the playoffs, 338. Harden, 338. So Wade, much better overall shooter in the playoffs. Harden and Wade, exact same three-point percentage. When Harden is supposed to be an elite three-point shooter and Wade is a terrible three-point shooter. They are the exact same percentage in the playoffs. I'm not done. What about based on your career? Because this is my biggest argument for Jimmy Butler, right? Jimmy Butler is such an incredible player because most star players, if you can replicate what you do in the regular season in the playoffs, you are a star. Regular season competition, much easier than playoffs. If you could be that same guy in the playoffs, holy shit, that's amazing. Jimmy Butler is better in the playoffs. Very rare. So let's look at that. Let's look at regular season shooting versus playoff shooting. So Dwyane Wade, career playoffs versus career regular season. Dwyane Wade in the playoffs, 474%. His career, 480. Right there. 0.6% lower. Right there. So he shoots the ball virtually the same. He's the same guy in the playoffs. Dwyane Wade from 3 in the playoffs, just told you, 338. Dwyane Wade career, 293. So he is a much better three-point shooter in the playoffs than in his career. What about James Harden, you say? Okay. James Harden, career playoff shooting, 424, which is bad. Regular season, 442. So he's worse in the playoffs than in the regular season. James Harden, career playoff three-point shooting, 338. Career regular season, 363. He is much worse shooting the three in the postseason than in the regular season. So Dwyane Wade shooting the ball overall, negligible difference in the playoffs, much better from 3. James Harden, lower in the playoff shooting, much lower three-point shooting in the playoffs. Now, let's keep going here. James Harden's only been to the finals. He's only been on the biggest stage one time. And he was a sixth man. He may have been sixth man of the year. Lost to Dwyane Wade's Miami Heat. Harden's been to the finals one time. And it was, what, I believe it was his third year, actually. That's funny. Dwyane Wade, his first time in the finals, his third year also. Let's take a look. James Harden, the only time he's ever been in the finals. 12.4 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 3.6 assists. What did he shoot? 375. Awful. What was he from 3? 318. Awful. He was horrendous in the finals. Dwyane Wade's first finals appearance. Also his third year in the league. 34.7 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, 3.8 assists. He shot 468 and 273 from 3. So, again, Wade's numbers, his first time in the finals, same amount of years in the league, dominated what Harden did. Matter of fact, Harden was horrendous his first and only time in the finals, while Wade had a Michael Jordan impression his first time in the finals. Now, let's compare to the regulars. Let's compare to your career, right? Let's compare to that season. So Dwyane Wade, in those finals, I just gave you the numbers. How about that season? Wade averaged 27.2 points, 5.7 rebounds, 6.7 assists. So all of those numbers were drastically elevated in the finals. Wade, that regular season, shot 495. He was 468 in the finals, so it went down a bit. Wade, 171 from 3. In the finals, 273. So while still not good, it was much higher in the finals than in the regular season. The sign of a super duper star is not only your numbers are better in the postseason, but in the finals? Now, okay, Harden was a sixth man. ZASLOW's numbers aren't going to be as big. Okay, but can he replicate his regular season numbers in those finals? Can he be that same guy, or does he choke? Well, Harden, his postseason, his finals numbers, 12.4 points. Regular season, 16.8. How about shooting? In the finals, 375. Regular season, 491. So he was really good in the regular season, and he was horrific in the finals. Harden, 318 from 3 in the finals, 390 in the regular season. He was a great shooter. Doesn't matter if he was sixth man. Doesn't matter if he played less minutes. Go by the percentages. That's a better way. 491 in the regular season, 375 in the finals. 390 from 3 in the regular season, 318 in the finals. He was a great shooter in the regular season. He was horrific in the finals. Get the F out of here comparing Dwyane Wade and James Harden, let alone saying Harden's better. Harden, just like Paul Pierce, cannot hold Dwyane Wade's jock.